Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare
Hare Krishna.
Jayam Vishnupad Punaman Supadi Pradrakacharya Stotra Sri Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Sakaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sham Mukund Radha Kunigiri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadip Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Jamana Mai Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
Gaur Premanande.
Hare Hari Bol.
Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Shaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarane Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Shadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Thank you all for coming. Let's see, for newcomers, we're reading Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 18, and we're on text 18. I decided that rather than talk about viruses and current events and all that, we just jumped to Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the real nectar and bhavosadat shrotamano virama, the medicine for that cures birth and death. So that's what we're jumping into. If you're hearing hiccups, it's my fan, which has been quiet and nice all day long, and in the last 5 minutes has gotten this hiccup. If it sounds really bad and disturbs us too much, I can switch to my phone and work from there. My phone doesn't have a fan, so let's see what happens. If necessary, I'll do that. Because of bandwidth, we found that it's better if you turn off your video. As much as I really love to see everyone, it helps, seems to help. If you have questions at any point or comments to make, feel free to jump in. At that time, just unmute yourself with the little icon, which is probably on your lower left, and turn your video on also so that we can see you. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Sutuvacha Aho Vayam Janma Britoja Hasma Vridhanu Vrityapi Viloma Jata Doshkulyam Adhim Vidunoti Shigram Mahattamanam Abhidhana Yoga. Sutta Goswami said, "O God, although we're born in a mixed caste, we are still promoted in birthright simply by serving and following the great who are advanced in knowledge. Even by conversing with such great souls, one can, without delay, cleanse oneself of all disqualifications resulting from lower birth." So there are many words here that are worth looking at. Manan Gopal, tell me if that fan just becomes too much, and I will switch, okay?
I think it's okay so far. It's not.
Okay. Ahovayam Janmabrita Adya Ha Asma Vidhanuvritya. He says that we're Vilomaja. Vilomajata means born of a mixed caste. There are two kinds of birth, or yes, two kinds of mixed parentage, according to the Vedic conception. One is called Anulom and the other is called Pratilom. Generally, a boy from a Brahmin family will marry a girl from a Brahmin family. A boy from a Kshatriya family will marry a girl from a Kshatriya family. That's sort of standard. But a higher caste man can marry a girl from a woman from a lower class. The example is Karna Muni, the father of Lord Kapiladev. He was a Brahmin, but he married a princess, Kshatriya's daughter, Devahuti. So that's anulom. That's quite acceptable. But when the woman's status is higher and the man's status is lower, that's not at all very good, and that's called pratilom. This Roma Harshana was from such a background, and here Sutta Goswami says that he's coming from such a family. Viloma. Viloma means Viloma Jata, a unsuitable mixture of castes. And therefore, Dosh Kulyam. Kula means family. Dosh Kulya, a bad family background. We're coming from a bad family background, disqualified. But by serving great souls, we've overcome that disadvantage. Vridha anuvridya, it's interesting. Vridha literally means elders. Vridha means an old person. But Vridha here means one who's old by advancement in knowledge. Prabhupada said that about Prahlad Maharaj. Although he was only 5 years old, he was senior because of his devotion and knowledge. So Sutta Goswami says, I've become fortunate by serving those who are advanced. And Prabhupada comments that he had double association of great souls, because first he got to hear from Shukadev Goswami, a topmost devotee of the Lord, and he also got to speak to the sages of Naimisharanya. So in both ways, he became fortunate. And Prabhupada comments that although he was disqualified by birth, neither the sages, the Naimisharanya sages, nor Sukadev Goswami refused to associate with him. The Sukadev Goswami didn't refuse to teach, and the sages didn't refuse to hear. And Prabhupada said, the science of Krishna has to be learned from the authorities, and when one preaches the science, he becomes still more qualified. And so Sutta Goswami had both these opportunities, and therefore he was freed from all of these. Vidhunoti. Dhunoti means purified, and vidhunoti, particularly purified or exceptionally purified by that association. Shigram, very quickly one becomes purified. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Kiba Vipra, Kiba Nyasi, Shudra Kene Noi, Jai Krishna Tattvaveta Shai Guru Hoy. Anyone can become a guru, doesn't matter whether he's a sannyasi or a householder or Brahmin or Kshatriya or Vaishya. He said, I'm not a Brahmin, a Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Gopi Bharta Padakamalayo, Dasa Dasa Anudasa. I'm the servant of the servant of the servant of Krishna. And Prabhupada notes that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted Srila Haridas Thakur as the Namacharya in spite of his apparently low birth. The Ganges water purifies gradually, but association with great souls can purify one very quickly. Even by seeing, one becomes purified. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to purify the whole atmosphere of the polluted world by sending qualified preachers all over the world. And it remains with the Indians to take up this task scientifically and thus do the best kind of humanitarian work. I've commented before that this is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's, this Indian diaspora is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's arrangement, or we can take it as his arrangement. Don't think that you've come to America just to do IT work or whatever. It's actually the duty of every Indian, Bharata Bhumite Manusha Janma Oilojar, Janma Sartak Kori Parapakar, to preach the science of Krishna. There's an interesting, every now and then we throw in an interesting editorial note, interesting to me anyway. The version I'm reading, this was the first edition or old printing, the first canto, and it says, it remains with the Indians to take up this task scientifically and thus do the best kind of humanitarian work. But as our BBT editors have later detected, the original editor left something out. Thus do the best kind of humanitarian work rather than performing some stereotyped imitation philanthropic work such as opening hospitals. So Prabhupada took a nice dig at the mundane philanthropic work, and that's now restored to the text. The mental diseases of the present age are more acute than the bodily diseases. In the midst of, we said we're not going to say too much about viruses, but in the midst of this viral epidemic, the mental diseases are worse still. After all, the worst the virus will do is kill you, but the mental diseases drive one mad. And that after all, if one dies, one can go back home, back to Godhead, or be promoted to a higher situation. But when the mind is polluted by all sorts of rubbish, then one is unfortunate in this life and unfortunate in the next. So, but by the association of great souls like Sutta Goswami or Sukadeva Goswami or the sages of Naimisharanya, everyone can be purified in Krishna consciousness. Are there some comments or questions here so far?
Yes, Maharaj.
Hare Kirtan, Prabhu, yes.
Hold on. Let me just get back to my window. There we go.
There you are.
Here I are. In that last passage, you spoke about how Prabhupada made a distinction between the higher humanitarian work of bestowing spiritual knowledge on people and the lesser material humanitarian work of building hospitals and the like. Nevertheless, hospitals come in handy sometimes.
They do.
And I think we've all availed ourselves to their services and been grateful for the opportunity to be cared for by the people who work in such places. So I'm wondering if you would mind taking just a moment to elaborate a little bit on the distinction between their relative values, and if you have anything to add so that people don't necessarily get the idea that we're saying we don't need hospitals.
This may be not quite the time to disparage doctors, nurses, and hospitals. They do have their value, certainly. But when we look at a comparative study, There's what that? There's three entities merged here: the physical body, then the mental or subtle body, and then the spirit soul. And the spirit soul is the actual person. The other two are coverings of the actual person. So the body has value only so long as the person is there. When when the person leaves, then the body is useless. The body is useless. So the essential element within the body is the soul. The body is attractive, or the body is can be healthy as long as the soul is there. Healthy or unhealthy, you can't even be unhealthy without the presence of the soul. You can only be dead. So the soul is the essential element, and that's the person who's either enjoying or suffering under the influence of the material energy. The body doesn't enjoy or suffer. Even the mind, although its absorption in matter causes enjoyment or suffering, it doesn't actually enjoy or suffer, because it's a mechanical thing, subtle mechanics. Higher, indriyani pranyahur indriyebhya param, higher than the body and the senses is the mind. And as a general principle, the mind is worse off in the Kali Yuga than even the body. The body is not doing very well, but manda bhagya upadrita. In this age, everyone's mind is screwed up. Everyone's mind is disturbed. People are confused, misled in so many ways. And therefore, psychiatrists and even these days, sort of, we don't waste too much time with psychotherapy. We go straight for the meds. And Madhupati, who used to work for Merck, told me that their focus there is, or in their research, has been antidepressants, because 1 out of 5 Americans is clinically depressed. So many troubles in the mind. So, getting back to your question, the body needs help, the mind needs help, but above all, it's the soul that needs help. Imagine if you went into the hospital and they said, "Oh my goodness, look at your dress. This is an emergency. We need to stitch this up. We need to remove the spots, or we're just going to give you a better dress." No, you'd say you're mad. You're mad because the dress is not me. What about me? So, of course, the body, we feel it to be more immediate than our dress. But finally, the body will be finished one way or the other way. As far as possible, we try to keep it in good working order. As far as possible, we try to keep it working at all. We try to keep it going. But if the soul is lost, everything is lost. And therefore, Prabhupada is not saying hospitals are bad, doctors are bad, but this idea that this is the highest welfare work, Prabhupada called it stereotypic imitation philanthropy, because it doesn't go to the highest need of the living being, which is the need to solve all these problems. What is that? Janma mrityu jara vyadhi, birth, death, disease, and old age. We read another verse from Bhagavad Gita the other day. What is that? Padam gacchantya namayam. Does someone remember where that is? Well, I think I'll find it. Yeah, it's 251. Karma jam buddhiyukta hi palam tyaktva manishinaha. Janma bandha vinirmukta padam gacchantyanamaya. Krishna says that those who are manishina, intelligent, give up the results of their work, give up attachment to the results. Buddhi yukta, because they're connected with Krishna and spiritual intelligence. Janma bandha vinirmukta, they get free from the bondage of birth and death. And padam gacchantyanamaya, and they go to the that destination, which is anamayam, where there's no more misery. Anamayam specifically means no disease. Anamayam means free from disease. Now, you know, the virus is going on and people are, you know, in huge numbers catching the virus. The virus will go away, but everyone will catch some other disease or suffer in some other way. Finally, everyone will die. And then everyone comes back again and goes through the whole damn thing again. Again suffering. Again mental anxieties and frustrations. Again physical miseries. And then again, and then again, and then again. This is the disease called bhava rog. Rog means disease. And bhava rog means the disease of existing in this material world with a material body. That's the real, the root cause. There's an expression in medicine, treatment is symptomatic. When the doctor tells you treatment is symptomatic, what does it mean? It means we really can't do anything about your disease. We can just try to treat the symptoms, make you more comfortable, less miserable. Treatment is symptomatic. So the whole material enterprise is treatment is symptomatic. We try to lessen this misery, lessen that misery, give you better opportunities for health and happiness. But finally, the disease is there, bhava rog, that we have to go on and on in material existence, suffering. We may be rich or poor or whatever. So the real, therefore Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is glorified as the real philanthropist because he delivers the conditioned souls from birth and death. That's the real, compared to that welfare work, everything else is, despite its urgency, less important. Is that okay?
Yes, thank you very much, Maharaj.
Thank you. Something else?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
So you mentioned about the Indian or the role of the Indian in the
Yes.
purport. So often I hear Prabhupada say that the notion of I am Indian, I'm American, and so on is sort of ignorant or unintelligent because these are false designations and they're temporary. On the other hand, here it says it's important for an Indian to kind of lead the way.
Yes,
It kind of sounds contradictory. Maybe could you help us, help clarify that?
On the one side, we want to set aside all these designations, Indian, American. This is all related to the body, which we're not. So we want to get free from these bodily designations. And on the other side, we're hearing, if you're Indian, this is your duty. So it seems quite contradictory. But still, first thing is, yes, of course, we're not the body, but we get a particular circumstance. And according to that particular circumstance, there are opportunities or duties. Like, for example, in the Bhagavatam, when Parikshit Maharaj is born, he's born in the family of the Pandavas, and the Pandavas, like Yudhishthira Maharaj, are asking the astrologers and the sages, will he be a worthy descendant of his family? Will he be a worthy descendant of his family? Will he be charitable like his his forefathers? And the sages are reassuring, yes, he'll be charitable, he'll be courageous, he'll be a great devotee of the Lord, so on. Because having taken birth in such a family entails some advantages and therefore some responsibility also. If someone is just like to be born a king's son, for example, it's not just you get a lot of perks or a lot of opulence, really, and honor, but it's supposed to be that great responsibility comes upon you because now you have to take charge of the kingdom. And it's not just a question of, we know I'm not this body, but although I'm not this body, if I've taken birth as the son of the king, and I have to take charge of the kingdom next, how much responsibility is there? I have to do that responsibility in the service of Krishna. I can't just say, well, anyway, I'm not this body. I'm not, but still, because of this birth, some duties are there or some opportunities. When Gop Kumar became king, he used his position as king to spread Krishna consciousness throughout the kingdom. That's the opportunity. So coming to the Indians, it's a special opportunity to be born in an Indian family, Indian background, means there's some background of pious activities, there's some background of culture, there's some background of shastric understanding. These things are a natural inheritance. It's a gift from Krishna. So if we ignore that gift and just say, well, I'm not this body, well, I'm not this body, then what? Then let me enjoy like you're an American. Let me immerse myself in sense gratification, because after all, what's life for it? No. If I've come from a fortunate background, then I shouldn't be a miser. A person who receives some wealth and doesn't use it or distribute it is a miser. So that indication is here. Not that the Indians should all think I'm Indian or immerse themselves in the bodily concept of life. No, they should know that by the mercy of Krishna, I've got this background where, first of all, I know that I'm not the body. Just as an example of how fortunate that birth is, we were one time with Srila Prabhupada in Vrindavan, and he was on his morning walk with a batch of temple presidents and sannyasis. I was also there. And we were walking through one field, and the farmer who seemed to be the owner of the field came out. And he was, you could see he was a real man of the earth. He had one of those, his cloth was like permanently gray, and his hands were gnarled. So he was, a real farmer, simple farmer. And he, seeing Prabhupada and the devotees, he offered his full dandavats. And then when he got up a little, he said in Hindi that it's our great fortune that you've come to bless our field. That actually it's Govinda's field, and it's our great fortune, you're Govinda's devotees, and you've come to bless our field. So Prabhupada said if it had been America, the guy would have come with his gun and said, get out of here, get off my land. But here, even a simple farmer knew that everything is Krishna's property and knew how to offer respect to devotees. So that fortunate inheritance is not to be neglected on the false plea that I'm not this body. No, we know that we're not this body, and therefore we should spread that understanding that I'm not this body for the benefit of all. Is that okay?
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you, thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Can you hear me, Maharaj?
Oh, that sounded good.
Sorry.
You've got two devices turned on at once, I think.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry. Okay, so earlier you were mentioning that even simply by seeing a pure devotee that a person can gain benefit.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wondering how that actually works, because I always think, you know, you have to hear and you have to digest and absorb what is being said, and then your consciousness becomes elevated. But you're saying just by seeing, a person can get.
Before I go on to answer your question, another thought came to me about the previous question, that sometimes Prabhupada would want something accomplished, like he wanted, famously, he wanted 17 books published in 2 months, and there were other things of that nature. And Prabhupada would sometimes say that if you can't do this, what is the use of your being American? American also supposed to give you some sort of advantage, that you're supposed to have some material capability. So what if you can't do this, what is the use of your being American? So whatever it is that we've got by virtue of our birth, even this body, in one point of view, it's just a burden, but from another point of view, it's an advantage for the service of Krishna. Durlabha manava janma. Durlabha manava janma tadapi adruvam artadam. Somehow we've got this human body, and although it's temporary, and although I'm not this body, I can get the greatest value, the greatest meaning from this human form of life. So we see it in that way. Okay, now coming back to your question, would you like to ask it again so that I don't get lost? Tulsi Priya.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I was asking that you were saying earlier that just, you know, by having association with the devotee or simply by seeing the
By
devotee,
seeing the devotee.
one can make benefit. So
Yeah.
I'm wondering how that works.
It's just like if you saw Krishna, how amazing that would be. So there's no difference between the devotee and Krishna. They're different, but seeing Krishna's representative reminds us of Krishna, purifies the mind, bestows a kind of transcendental benefit. And Prabhupada said a first-class devotee, just by seeing him, you start to chant Hare Krishna. So we're, of course, we can misuse it also. We see a pure devotee and we become envious or we become inimical. The Sati, wife of Lord Shiva, said to her, when her father insulted Lord Shiva, she said that by the dust of the feet of a pure devotee, one can go to hell. Generally, we hear by the dust of the feet of the devotee, one can attain all perfection. But she says, yes, but if you offend the devotee, then you can go to hell. The same dust will send you down. So one can abuse or misuse or neglect the association of the devotee. But any fortunate person, if he just sees a devotee, some connection there is with Krishna now. Even if he says, oh, I saw this person, he's very unusual. Somehow it's like thinking of Krishna. If you think of Krishna's peacocks, if you think of Krishna's cows, you think of Krishna's gopis, you think of Krishna's pure devotees, something is there for the upliftment of the living being. Is that okay? Would someone else like to chip in something here?
That's fine for me, though. Thank you.
Okay. If anyone else would at any point like to add some thoughts or realizations, I don't have a monopoly here. Please feel free to pitch in. I think, is there something else, or shall I go on to the next verse? I shall. Kuta punar grinato namatasya mahattamaya kanta parayanasya yo ananta shaktir bhagavan ananto mahad gunatwad yamananta mahu. Even by conversing with such great souls, we heard, we can cleanse ourselves of disqualifications. So now, kuta punar, then what to speak of, what to say, Kuta punar grinato namatasya, of those who come under the direction of the great devotees, chanting the holy name of the unlimited, Ananta, Ananta Shakti, by the power of that unlimited Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead, Mahadgunatvad Yamananta Mahu. One can, what does it say? I'm sorry, I've taken a wrong turn on looking at this. Let's look at it again. Yes. The Lord is called Ananta because of his transcendental attributes. Yes. Gunatvat, Ananta Mahatgunatvat, because of his unlimited, transcendental, powerful attributes, he's known as Ananta, unlimited. Let's see what Prabhupada says here. Yeah, there's a couple of things that are very important here. One is, again, Prabhupada is speaking again, the idea that birth in a lower family is because of sinful activity, and to get free from the disqualification, one has to take birth again in a better family. We've heard this even from in Vrindavan, that yes, if you continue this process in your next life, you can take birth as a Brahmin. No. In this very lifetime, one can become Krishna conscious and go back home, back to Godhead. Then, to answer these false logicians, Srimad Bhagavatam asserts that one who chants the holy name of the Lord under the direction of a pure devotee can at once get free from the disadvantages of a lower birth. So Prabhupada, our whole movement is on this principle, that although we were just saying that to take birth in an Indian family is a great advantage. It's a great advantage. How the same thing, the same sort of idea comes up in is it the 9th chapter? Yeah. Striya Shudra Tata Vaisha Tepi Anti Param Gatim, that the people who are of lower births, Stri, Shudra, Vaisha, they're also considered lower birth. Striya Shudra Tata Vaisha, they can all go back to Godhead. Tepi Anti Param Gatim, although it's considered a lower birth. Kim Punar Brahmana Punya. What is that? Kim Punar Brahmana Punya. No, I've forgotten. Tata Anityam Asukam Lokam Imam Prapya Bhajashvatam. Bhakta Rajarshayastata. Then, if even these people of lower birth can go back to Godhead, what to speak? Again, this Kim Puna, the same phrase used here, almost the same. Kuta Punar, Kim Punar. Brahmana Punya. What to speak of those who take birth in a family of pure Brahmins, or Bhakta, a devotee family, or Rajarshis? What an opportunity that is. So Krishna is certainly not on the bodily platform of life. From the second chapter onward, he's been disparaging this foolish misidentification with the body. But he's recognizing that there are higher births and lower births, and if one takes advantage of the opportunity of a higher birth, he can make so much progress. But even if one's born in the lowest family, tepi anti paramgadam, still they can go back to Godhead also. So this is Krishna's mercy. You may have a very fortunate birth, very fortunate attributes, born in a cultured, devotional, learned family, or you may be born in a family of hunters. The Mrigari was the son of a hunter. He picked up the same occupation. But by association with Narad Muni, he became a great sadhu. So all of these opportunities are there, and our whole movement is based on that anyone from any part of the world, any community, Kirata, Hunandra, Palinda, Pulkasha, Nye Nye Chapapa, Yadapashraya Ashraya, Shudyanti, Tasmai Prabhavishnave. Everyone can be purified by the holy name of the Lord. Everyone can become a spiritual master. Everyone can go back to Godhead. To chant the holy name under the direction of a pure devotee is offenseless chanting. Offenseless chanting of the holy name of the Lord is transcendental, and therefore such chanting can at once purify one from the effects of all previous sins. This offenseless chanting indicates that one has fully understood the transcendental nature of the holy name and has thus surrendered to the Lord. So offenseless chanting is emphasized here. 10 offenses should be avoided. The holy name of the Lord is as powerful as the Lord. So one who's chanting of the holy name, so his name and himself are identical, so the holy name of the Lord can protect the devotee from all the effects of sins. The chanting can undoubtedly deliver one from the disadvantages of a lower caste birth, or finally, from birth and death entirely. Since the devotee is surcharged with the potency of the Lord, even fractionally, the disqualification due to a lower birth cannot stand in the way. Any questions or comments here?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Shuman.
Maharaj, a question related to the last one. I was contemplating on this word where it's written that Indians preaching scientifically. So I was thinking of the significance of that word scientifically.
Well, there are two meanings we can take. If an Indian has a scientific background, he's got an MS or something like that, then he can preach to other scientists, or he can preach to those who are students of science, using his, his fancy vocabulary and his understanding of various scientific theories and arguments. So that's one meaning. And the other meaning is Jnanam teham savigyanam idam vaksham yasheshata. In the 7th chapter, Krishna says, I'll speak to you this jnana and vijnana, knowledge and science. Vigyan means where Prabhupada takes it, and it's the common word, science. So that this science is not that science. when Prabhupada speaks of the science of Krishna consciousness, it doesn't mean experimental research work and speculative theories and so on. But it means that there's a process for spiritual realization, which begins by hearing from the Lord and the devotees of the Lord, and then adopting the principles. Then we get some gyan, some spiritual knowledge, and vigyan means realization also. The science is a science of, well, we have that book, Science of Self-Realization. Science consists of, in one sense, applied understanding. If we don't know how to apply the knowledge we've received, then our scientific knowledge is not complete. So the science of devotional service, how to apply it, how to understand it factually in one's life, that's what's meant by science, vigyan. Is that okay?
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you.
Anything else here?
Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, you said you.
How are you? I wanted to get your thoughts on something. So the 9 processes of devotional service. It's described that any one of those processes can take us back to Godhead.
Yeah.
And I've heard from different people in our movement also. There are certain devotees who are very much into the chanting, and even when they read Harikatha, they speak Harikatha, it's only for the point of view of like emphasizing chanting of the holy name. And then there are certain other devotees who are very scholarly and they emphasize the hearing of Shastras. But then I was also thinking, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, right? Antakale chamameva smaran muktva kalevaram, right? So is the purpose of hearing and chanting smaran, or are they by themselves equally potent? So I think I'm being a little incoherent in my question. So I wanted to hear your thoughts on like hearing and chanting specifically. Sometimes one seems to be emphasized over the other in the lectures that we hear in ISKCON.
Sometimes in an ISKCON lecture, they emphasize hearing, sometimes chanting, sometimes even when there's a lecture on Shastra, still it's all about hearing and chanting. But then we hear Antakala Kale Jamameva Smaran Muktva Kalevaram. One goes back to Godhead by remembering Krishna. So how are we to look upon all of this? Is that, yeah.
Thank you. You did a much better job with my question than I did. Thank
No,
you.
I just fed back what you said. All the methods are absolute. That's the first thing. That as Krishna is absolute, so his name, his form, his quality, his pastimes, and his 9 methods of service are all on the absolute platform. And therefore, as we learn, by any one of them, one can become perfect. Still, in the Kali Yuga, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has emphasized hearing and chanting, especially. Of course, there's no chanting without hearing. If we don't hear, there's nothing to chant. And and if we don't chant, there's also nothing to hear. Chanting, by the way, doesn't just mean chanting mantras, but speaking the science of Krishna, that's also chanting. Prabhupada one time told about how his Guru Maharaj had noted that this boy likes to hear. And Prabhupada said, because I was enthusiastic about hearing, now I'm enthusiastic about chanting or preaching. So that preaching is also chanting. Or we hear who became perfect by kirtan, chanting, Sukadev Goswami. But it's not that he was, doing kirtan, just chanting the holy name. He's speaking Srimad Bhagavatam. So that's equally kirtan. The Harinam kirtan, chanting the holy name of the Lord, that's kirtan. And speaking the Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita or the glories of the Lord, That's also kirtan. Both are there. But it's a fact that in the Kali Yuga, simply the Harinam, Harinama, Harinama Eva Kevalam, the chanting is so valuable. And Prabhupada mentions that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, for the public, it was kirtan. It was Harinam Sankirtan. And then for a few close devotees, with the Goswamis, with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, with some elevated persons, then there was discussion of philosophy, there was discussion of Bhagavad Gita. But for the people in general, just kirtan. Just kirtan. So that emphasis on kirtan is very clear. And yet we found that Prabhupada was emphasizing the distribution of books, which is also kirtan and which is also philosophy. So all of these things come together. And finally, smaranam, thinking, remembering. But what will we remember? We have to remember what we've heard. You tell me something, and then if I'm fortunate, I'll remember. Yes, he told me this. But if you don't tell me to begin with, then I can't remember it because I never heard it. So remembering means what we've heard, remembering what we've heard from the pure devotees. So smaran. And Prabhupada said one time when he was, not more than once, when he was commenting on Manmana Bhavamad Bhakta, always think of me. This thinking and chanting are the same. One time Prabhupada just succinctly said, chanting means thinking. If you're chanting, then you're thinking of Krishna. Chanting means thinking. The devotees who are chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. At the time of death, they'll be able to remember Krishna. If they remember the chant itself, that's absolute. If they remember Krishna's form or qualities or pastimes, that's absolute. It's all on the absolute platform. Is that okay?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have 2 minutes more. Are there some other questions?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
You're coming from the Brahmajyoti.
Sorry.
Don't merge.
Fully enlightened beings.
So Maharaj, I was in this verse and in this purport elsewhere, often this idea of higher and lower births is mentioned, and the disadvantages of lower births and so forth. But at the same time, I think here it's also mentioned that really from the perspective of progressing spiritually, there's no real distinction. Whether one is born a Shudra or a Brahmana, it really doesn't matter if they take to this process sincerely of Krishna consciousness, of chanting and hearing and so forth. From the perspective of the Lord, they're equal, and the results are also equal. So this obviously this higher lower birth, it's a material designation, but yet it's often emphasized in our scriptures, right, as significant and so forth. So I have a hard time understanding.
Well, let's look at it another way. That Sutta Goswami's, in his humility, thinks that I was born, and look at me, I was born in this lower position. He doesn't say, well, we're not this body, and all these higher, lower, this is all rubbish. He thinks, no, by physical birth, I'm born in a lower situation. And yet, the mercy of the Lord is so great, the mercy of association with devotees is so great, that I'm able to come in touch with the unlimited, the personality of Godhead. I'm able to glorify the Lord. So he takes it that way, that it's a disadvantage. Yet, the Lord can help us overcome all, even to take birth Anywhere is a disadvantage. In any position, from to be Brahma or to be a dog, it's all terrible. But to be a dog is worse. To be born in a low family, to be born with, there's so many disadvantages that one may have. So they're obstacles. But the holy name is so glorious that whatever the obstacles, one can attain perfection. Kiratu Hunindra, Hunandra. To be born in these lower communities is an obstacle. It's an obstacle. But it's not an insurmountable obstacle. It's not an insurmountable obstacle. Because the holy name is absolute, one becomes better than the best Brahmins. That quotation is there in Nectar of Devotion, that there's some particular people who are of a lower caste, but when they're wearing tilak and kantimala, then they look better than the regular Brahmins. So we're not, what's the word, unmindful of the bodily differences. After all, we accept the varnashram system. What is that? It means people have different occupations according to the body. I've many times spoken how foolish it is to think that there's no difference between anyone and anyone and everyone. The sort of modern outlook where everybody is equally endowed and everyone can have the same. No, materially, there's so many differences. It's not that everyone's the same or that we can make everyone the same. I'm not going to become a world-class heavyweight wrestler. It's not the kind of body I have. So we recognize the bodies are different. All this equality on the bodily platform is foolishness. Bodies are different. We know the bodies. What is that? Brahmane gavihastini shuni chaiva shapakecha. The self-realized person sees equally Samadarshana. But at the same time, he knows this is a dog, this is a tiger, this is a cow, this is a human being. He's not unaware of the distinctions. But he sees ultimately it doesn't matter because the real equality is there on the spiritual platform. It's not that because everything is, like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mother was instructing the Lord when the Lord was sitting on those dirty pots and arguing that, well, what's the difference sitting on dirty pots or sitting in a clean place? Everything's one. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mother probably said, after all, she was the wife of a Pandit. So he said, no, there's some distinction here. When I have mud in the form of a pot, I can carry water. But if I try to carry water with mud in the form of a brick, it doesn't work. So material distinctions are not illusory, they're there. But ultimately they don't matter. Because even like Prahlad Maharaj, he's another example of Dosh Kulyam. He's born in a terrible family. His father is a demon, so demonic that Indra wanted to kill him in the womb. He's the son of Hiranyakashipu. He should be killed before he's born. That low. And yet he becomes one of the Mahajans by the grace of Narad Muni. So we see these distinctions, we acknowledge these distinctions. We don't become proud that, no, I'm a devotee. I reckon I came from such a low background. Even Haridas Thakur, he would stay a little apart. The devotees are taking prasadam. No, I'll take something later. Because he thought that I'm coming from a low background. It's the humility of a devotee. And the devotees who come from a high background, they also shouldn't think, well, I'm coming from a Brahmin family and I'm born in Vrindavan and blah, 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 blah. yeah, all right, true. But now you also have to be humble. You also have to fulfill your destiny as of having such a high birth. Your birth will be glorified when you serve Krishna. Otherwise, you become like the burnt remnants of your family. Or Tulsidas says that the putra and the mutra come from the same channel. The son and urine come from the same channel. So if a person, the son doesn't worship Krishna, then he's no better than urine. And, it doesn't matter. You can't say, well, this is Brahminical urine and this is, Shudra urine. Urine is urine. So anyone who engages in the service of Krishna, he becomes glorious. And especially those who are, what is that? Aho bhatta swapachoto guriyan yaj jivagre vartate namatubhyam. Even the dog eater, and there's so many verses that make this point, that it doesn't matter how low, if you're chanting the holy name, you're on the transcendental platform. But Kim Punar Brahmana, still those who are born in devotee families or born in the family of transcendentalists, or even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, born in Bharata Bhumi, these are all advantages not to be overlooked or wasted. Is that okay?
Yes, thank you, Maharaj. Thank you.
Okay. They may be materially advantageous also, but that's the waste of, like if you're born in an Indian family, chances are you're more disciplined than these, American goof-offs, and you were forced to, study from the age of 2.5 and, all of that. But if that's the only advantage you take, that I can get a good job, I got good education, good job, good money, then that's a waste. That's a waste of the opportunity, because that will all be finished. But this, and for me, it will be finished, and for others, it won't really confer any great benefit. But if we can give people Krishna consciousness, that makes our life perfect and spreads the greatest welfare activity for the benefit of all.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Maharaj.
Thank you, Madan Gopal Prabhu.
I really appreciate you, staying here in Tuaco with us and giving us this sweet nectar.
I have no choice.
And I also thank all the devotees who joined this evening, and feel free to spread the word. We have this class with Maharaj from Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, every evening, 8 p.m. till about 9 p.m. Eastern time. So feel free to share this link with others, share it on Facebook or whatever, and come and join us. And we look out for other announcements. We also have on the weekends, on Sunday, on the same channel, we have it at 6 o'clock in the evening. So thank you all very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Also, just to remind everybody, tomorrow evening we will have His Holiness Bhakti Swami thus giving us class tomorrow and Thursday this week, Thursday being Ram Navami. So please do join us for those classes also.
Where will he be speaking from?
Ujjain. I think Ujjain, somewhere in India, Maharaj. I'm not sure, but
Okay.
I think he's in Ujjain.
Okay. I'll definitely want to tune in. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Maharaj.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Krishna Maharaj, thank you very much.
Hare
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna Hare Hare.